Okay, so this is our first lecture video on Chapter 1, The Rise of Civilization, which will take us from the Neolithic Revolution all the way through ancient Mesopotamia. So our first question should always be, how do we know that this is what happened? Sometimes the answer is, well, we don't know for sure, but here's what the evidence suggests. In the case of the prehistoric past, all we know is what we can gather from archaeological remains. We can look at the development of early humans over time. This is called anthropology. And we can look at the artifacts that we have recovered and try to make connections and formulate theories on what we think happened. This is called archaeology. I just want to point out that much of what we know about the past is the result of careful scientific study. Anthropologists and archaeologists propose hypotheses, they conduct research, and they publish their findings. These papers are then reviewed by other scientists and rigorously questioned and critiqued. Only after this high level of scrutiny are theories proposed. The textbook claims that a theory is a hypothesis or unproven assumption. This is completely incorrect. A theory is a scientifically acceptable general principle or body of principles offered to explain phenomena. And phenomena means a fact or an event. A good example of a strong theory is the out of Africa theory, which argues that humans originated in Africa somewhere around Lake Tanganyika and gradually migrated outwards from there in successive waves over a very long period of time. There's extensive archaeological and anthropological evidence to support this theory. As humans spread across the planet, they inevitably separated into different groups with unique cultures and languages. Culture is an easy thing to define, but it's difficult to identify. More than one culture can exist within a region. Multiple civilizations can share a culture, or a single civilization may encompass multiple cultures. One great piece of anthropological evidence for the spread of humanity across the planet is the relationships we can find in languages. The Hindu god of fire is called Agni. In English, we say that we ignite a fire. These two words are related because both English and Sanskrit come from an original source, probably somewhere in the Caucasus Mountains of Central Asia. As humans spread out across the planet, they began to settle down and adapt to their environment and adapt their environment to their own needs. Agriculture is a great example of how humans interacted with their environment. Agriculture looked different in different environments. Humans, limited by what the local environment provided, but at the same time, they were very inventive in how they could adapt the environment to their own needs. The development of agriculture and the surplus food that it brought led to the development of sedentary civilizations. There are 6 components of any civilization. Cities that provide for safety from nomadic raiders and from other civilizations. Cities also allow people to maximize their labor, making production more efficient. Governments that maintained order and regulated daily life. Religions that often work to help people understand their place in the cosmic order. Social structures such as class and caste. Some civilizations, like ancient Egypt, had highly regimented or strict social structures. Others, like the Indus River civilization, had very loose or egalitarian social structures. Writing developed very early as a means of keeping track of trade and laws. And art that allows people to express thoughts and feelings in a sensory manner. Art often serves as the vehicle for passing culture from one generation to the next. One of the most successful early civilizations was that of the Fertile Crescent, often referred to as Mesopotamia. The 2 rivers of the Fertile Crescent, the Tigris and the Euphrates, both flow out of the highlands of Anatolia, which is modern-day Turkey. Seasonal rains in that region could vary widely, resulting in frequent and unpredictable floods. The floods could bring terrible devastation to the region. We even have literary evidence of this in the form of both the Epic of Gilgamesh and the Old Testament flood story. But these floods also deposited nutrient-rich sediment in the soil. After the floods receded, the agricultural land was refreshed and very fertile, leading to abundant crops that could support a large population. Perhaps because of the unpredictable floods and harsh climate, Sumerian religion was characterized by capricious and selfish gods. Even if a person lived a virtuous life, they still went to a hellish afterlife when they died. In the Epic of Gilgamesh, Enkidu describes the afterlife to his friend Gilgamesh as the house where the dead dwell in total darkness, where they drink dirt and eat stone, where they wear feathers like birds, where no light ever invades the everlasting darkness, where the door and the lock of hell is coated with thick dust. When I entered the house of dust, on every side the crowns of kings were heaped. So Sumerian religion revolved around keeping the gods happy, or at the very least not attracting their unwanted attention. As such, priests were very powerful in Sumerian society, as they could call forth the wrath of the gods or keep it at bay. Due to the fertility of the soil, the population of Mesopotamia grew to the point that it could support multiple cities, each of which tried to assert control over the surrounding countryside. As the city grew, new building techniques developed, allowing people to build higher walls, larger temples, palaces, and houses. Continued expansion into the surrounding lands brought cities into contact, leading to both conflict and cooperation. Increased trade led cities to specialize in profitable goods. At the same time, the need for protection led to the development of military weapons and techniques. Archaeological evidence from the ancient city of Ur provides a great deal of information about life in the 6th century BCE. The size and location of the major temples tells us that life in the city revolved around religious rituals. The location of the palace, directly adjacent to the harbor, indicates that the ruler controlled and probably taxed trade coming in and out of the city. The presence of a large fortress on the east wall shows us that the city had a trained and at least semi-permanent military. The size and location of houses indicates a very stratified society, made up of nobles, townspeople, craftsmen, and slaves. We know that the slaves worked in almost all aspects of life, from serving in temples to government, military, farming, and crafts. So, in conclusion, we know a great deal about the ancient past. Thanks to archaeological and anthropological evidence, we know that early people were intelligent and very creative, that they adapted to and changed their environment, and that early civilizations developed as a result of this surplus food and growing populations.